This is Piazza San Marco, the St. Mark Square, the only piazza in the town, meaning piazza is the main square, 175 meters long. This side here is 57 meters wide. Down in front of the church, it is 83 meters, meaning it is trapezoid form. We are surrounded by three large buildings. The largest and oldest among them is the one on the opposite side. Behind all those windows, the state offices used to be. You remember that Venice was a republic, so in those times, this is where the state administration was. Lots of offices. But what you cannot see is that behind that building, there's a parallel wing, which is a little bit more narrow and shorter, but there are more offices than you first thought. And that was not enough. In the beginning of the 17th century, they realized that they had the same problem which we all have today, and that's too much state administration, so they had to build the other side. And nowadays they call them procurazie. Procuratori were the people who work in administration. Procurazie vecchie, the old procurazie, is the 16th century Renaissance style building. Procurazie nuove, the new procurazie built in the 17th century Baroque style. No, totally different style. This building at the end, the conclusion to the square, was built by Napoleon. You remember that Napoleon was the only conqueror of Venice in 1797. It went without a fight because Venice simply surrendered to Napoleon, knowing that if he takes it over by force, he will destroy lots of things. Napoleon took it over in peace, but he had to destroy something. There was a church here in the middle. If you go through the middle passage, you will see the drawing of the church on the floor. You can have a look at it. It is San Gimignano Church. Over the church, he built this building from one to the other corner, and he modestly named it after himself, Napoleon's home. Originally, the top floor had only one room. It was a big ballroom, the dancing hall for Napoleon. And on top, you can see some statues. Those statues are the most famous Roman emperors. Can you see that something is missing in the middle? There is something rounded, and that was the Napoleon's coat of arms. The rounded one with the letter M in the middle. But the first thing that the Austrians did after they took control over it was to take it out, and they left it empty. And they have divided this ballroom into more rooms and changed it into the museum. So this is the museum, the history of Venetian art today, and that's the name, Museum Korea. All of that building, and half of this one is the art museum. The other half is archaeological museum, and around the corner it continues into the library. There's the Doge's Palace at the very end, so there are 4 museums here on the square. To do all 4, you'll need between 4 and 5 hours. So I wouldn't say don't go to the museums, but you simply don't have time. You have to leave the museums for the next time, because here nothing is going to change. Then you can go to the museums as well. Well, there's a church on the opposite side, and that church is probably the most famous building from Venice. Is the St. Mark's Church. St. Mark the Evangelist, who lived in the times of Jesus, after Jesus was traveling these areas, and he has left from Grado, which is halfway between here and Trieste, towards Alexandria in Egypt by the ship. Ship was damaged and pushed in the storm by the winds all the way to this lagoon. At that time, no people, or very few, 4 islands, and those little few people were capable of repairing his ship. While he spent a few days on these islands, he had a vision of Archangel Gabriel, who came to him and said that here is going to be his final resting place. And the goodbye words were, "Peace with you, Mark my evangelist." So Mark eventually got to Alexandria in Egypt. He founded his own church, and those Coptic people, 10% of the inhabitants today, are the followers to his church. In the year 828, Venetians, 2 merchants, came to Alexandria for the very first time. And there they heard the story of St. Mark. They connected it to the same Mark who was here, and they paid to the Coptic people very well in gold to get the information where was he buried. There was a huge marble sarcophagus, way too big and heavy, But they have opened it up, they have stolen his remainings and put them in a big basket. It had a cover and 2 handles. They took one on each side, they went back to the port. They knew that it would be almost impossible to pass the Egyptian customs, so they were ready for that. When they got to the customs, of course the Egyptian said, I have to see what's inside. He opened it up, poof, covered it quickly back and started screaming, Khanzir, Khanzir, meaning pig in Arabic. So what happened? In those times there were no refrigerators and the only food you could carry around was something dried. And Venetians had a piece of the air-dried ham, prosciutto, with them, which is pork. They sliced it quickly, and with the slices of pork they covered the remainings of the saint. When the Egyptians saw pork, they would never touch it, especially not search through it, and that's how they smuggled the body of saint from Egypt to Venice. In his honor, the new church was made. He was taken, of course, immediately for the new saint, replacing the original saint of Venice, who was Saint Theodore. The church was built for St. Mark's, but not this one. This is the third one. The first 2 were both smaller and both destroyed by fires. This is the third one. It was opened in 1094. At that time, it was the most beautiful church in the world, and it kept this primacy for many centuries. It's the Byzantine-style church. They have borrowed ideas in Constantinople, which is Istanbul today. And with those domes and arches, it is obviously Byzantine, but they have changed it many times, so it's a kind of a mixture. The front side is a mixture of different styles. Pay attention to the top, in the middle. There you can see a statue of Saint Mark the Evangelist standing. Under him, on both sides, you can see 3 angels on each side, a bit sideways like this, and all those angels have yellow wings. They're robbing the shop. So there is, under the St. Mark's, there is a winged lion standing. Can you see him? Over the only window on this side. The winged lion is symbol of St. Mark's. And this lion has a book. So there's a winged lion with a book. Is the symbol of Venetian Republic. The book is open and you can read the text in Latin. Pax tibi Marque Evangelista meus, meaning peace with you, Mark my evangelist. The last words of Archangel Gabriel. And this also means that that building was built in the times of peace. If the book is closed, the building was built during the war of battle, because there were no wars ever going on inside the lagoon. All the books in Venice are open. But in Croatia, in the Eastern Peninsula, you can find the closed books. That's where the war was going on, not here. And all those arches, there are 10 arches, 5 in the bottom row, 5 in the upper row, 9 out of 10 are covered by the mosaics, and they're also yellowish. So is the complete interior, the whole ceiling, domes, semi-domes, arches, everything is covered by mosaics like this. And whatever you see as yellow is no paint, of course, it is gold. Venetians have brought gold from all around the world to decorate the church. There's everything from 12 to 24 karat gold. No one knows how much gold exactly, but they're estimating nowadays that there must be spent between 7 and 8 tons of gold for the complete decoration of the church. So no wonder that it is known under the name Golden Basilica. There is no building in the world holding more gold than this one. The complete surface of those mosaics, inside and outside, is about 12,000 square meters, which in other words is this first half of this square. No larger golden mosaics anywhere else in the world. Can you see 4 horses in front of the window? Those 4 horses were made on the Greek islands, somewhere between 3rd and 2nd century before Christ. But to Venice, they were brought by the Crusaders from Venice during the 4th Crusade, when they have attacked and conquered Constantinople. For the first time, Constantinople fell, and it was taken over by a Doge of Venice, Enrico Dandolo. Nothing strange, unless he was 93 years old and totally blind. He sent those horses over, put them on a church. Later, from the church, they were taken off by Napoleon on specially built carriages. Napoleon brought them all the way to Paris, where they stood on the Arch of Triumph, until the Austrians took them down again used the same carriages to bring them back to Venice, but in the meantime, they were replaced by the copies. We're looking at the copies now. Originals are inside behind the window. It's free entrance to the church, but inside there are little museums, 2 to 4 euros to pay each. 4 euros to get to original horses and the balcony there at the front. Are you familiar with the American writer Dan Brown? Da Vinci Code, probably his most famous book, but his latest book is called Inferno, following the Dante's Inferno, beginning in Florence, goes on in Venice, and ends in Istanbul. There's even a film. Tom Hanks is acting again. In the film you can see him standing with those 4 horses, and that's when he asks the local guide, where are the horses from and who brought them over? And she tells him of this blind doge, Enrico Dandolo and Constantinopolis. Then he realized that he was on a good trace, but in the wrong city. I can't tell you more, because this will destroy the mystery in the book. Now you need to find yourself a book and read it, or at least have a look at the film. And when you get to those 4 horses, you will remember me. Next to the church is its bell tower. The bell tower was built in many different phases, starting from a smaller watchtower, about 1/3. In the 12th century it was raised into the bell tower, but this height it is reached in the 14th century. It is 98.6 meters to the top, including the angel on top, Archangel Gabriel of course, 103 meters. Many centuries, this was the tallest building on the territory of the today's Italy. And the angel on top is gold-plated. He's spinning. You see the wings on his back? With the wind pressures, he's turning around the axe in the middle. He shows the weather. The best weather is if he's looking away from here, then he's not worried at all. And the worst weather is when he's facing the square. And he's worried, and he protects the square from storms usually coming. Even our captains have a look at him twice a day, coming in, coming out, because he can change in the meantime. There you can see the arches and people standing there. They're standing at the same place from which Galileo Galilei, famous scientist, tested the first telescope in the history. These people got there by an elevator. Entrance is from the opposite side, 8 euros it costs, and it brings you there. You have the best panoramic view of Venice from there. You can't get any higher. You see no clouds, you can see very far away. You will see the most of the lagoon, not only Venice itself. But if you go there, make sure it will not be full hour time. At full hour, the bells will go off, and then you will hear nothing else for the next half an hour. So wait until the bells go by. Well, the tower we're watching at is unfortunately not the original bell tower. The original bell tower had big problems. Those foundations were never reinforced, and somehow it survived over 600 years before it started cracking up. The crack on the other side was growing in front of the eyes of Venetians 20 to 30 centimeters a day. Beginning in June 1902. On the 14th of July 1902, it was all over. The tower exploded. It exploded of pressures. This left corner practically fell off completely. The top fell to the right and damaged the end of this building, but this brick-made part, it broke into half and fell sideways onto the square. It happened at 9:47 in the morning. That was not the best time. 13 to 10. At 10 o'clock every day there's a service in the church. So lots of people were in the church already, but many people were still on the square walking towards the church when the tower suddenly fell down. What do you think? How many people were killed? No one, that's correct. But who warned them? Who saved them? The angel. Angel couldn't help himself. Angel landed right in front of the door of the church. Did not damage the church, but he was damaged. San Marco didn't move even, but somebody still warned the people. The warning came 1.5 minutes before the tower collapsed, and this was enough for the people to run on the sides, and tower fell onto the empty square. There's one. Pigeons warned the people. At that time, there were so many more pigeons here, and at that time, 1.5 minutes before, they all, like on the command, flew up in the air. No apparent reason. One man standing on this side realized that they must have felt vibrations. He ran across the square. This was expected, so he didn't have to say twice, and people ran off, and tower fell down. That's why the Venetians left pigeons in peace. But by 2005, this square was literally covered by